Hey everybody, getting in the holiday spirit. I got my Christmas decorations out. Gnome for the holidays. Anyway, they had a whole bunch of little gnomes at Job Lot, and I was there this week. I was thinking of picking up a few, but I couldn't decide which ones to get. There's so many gnomes, so little time. Bear with me this week. I've got a little bit of a cold, and I did my posting on Facebook, and I'm just hoping that I have enough steam to get through this today. I was fine last week. One of those kind of weeks. I was fine, and then I went. I had a dentist appointment, you know, and my voicemail on my phone is just it doesn't always pick up the voicemail. Like I'll play it and it'll say it doesn't have the software to play it or something. Like I feel like my dad for some reason. I hate voicemails, but they always say that like doctor's offices. They say, oh, we left a voicemail, and then I'll get it like a week later, and it's like and they're always lately. Most of the doctors they reschedule. In fact, I guarantee that it'll happen. It's happened with all of my medical appointments in the past year. Now that I think about it, all of them have rescheduled on me. And I'm starting to get, I think I'm starting to get psychic. Because I was thinking, oh, I got the dentist. And then I had a thought, this is what you need to listen to. It's that very quiet thought that you brush away. By the way, Leslie Bilodeau Plazz, Zazoo Plazz here. I'm off to a rollicking start. It's Sagittarius. Here for the December 8th, 2025 Zazoo Plazz report. If you didn't already guess, I did away with all of the niceties. But anyway, it's the Zazoo Plazz report. If you've been here before, you know the deal. Yeah, it's me. Anyway, what is it? So yeah, so I just realized that. I said, okay, so I have to go up to where I used to live, to this town where I used to live, which is, it takes almost 15 minutes to get from where I live now to where my dentist place is. It used to be 10 minutes. So it's, and I had to go out anyway, but it was that really cold day last week. And I get there, and I'm so proud of myself because I'm on time. And I walk in. She said, "Didn't you get the message?" I said, "The lady at the, at the desk. I think she was a millennial. There used to be this other, they were boomers there before, but they retired or whatever they did. But they were very efficient. And you call and you get them, and and then, there was another guy who owned it before. And now they changed the name to something generic. And it's yeah. So anyway, so I walk in. She said, "Oh, didn't you get the voicemail?" I said, "No." She said, "Oh, the hygienist is out sick today." Of course he is. What I rearranged my whole freaking schedule. But I got this thought. The thought I got earlier was, gee, it took me, I've had this appointment for 6 months. Was the thought, like, oh, they won't reschedule on me because it'll take me too long to get another appointment. So, luck would have it that they had another appointment later this week. So I'm like, and they go through hygienists like paper towels, just tear them up. This is the same one I had 6 months ago. But there was a while there where every time I'd go, there'd be a new lady, and then they have the mask on, so you can't really, and they talk to you, but I end up chatting anyway, you know, even with, but it's been less. It used to be my family, my mom and dad, they were serious about dental hygiene because they both had teeth problems. Because back in the 40s, kids didn't have all the fluoride and all the treatments and things that I had, as a kid in the 70s. Well, right. Yeah, it took me that long to get, some baby teeth. So yeah, probably early 70s, I was going to the dentist and we went to the same, family place. We had to go into Hartford because there weren't that many dentists. I grew up in East Hartford, which is in the suburbs. So we had to go into the city near where my dad, the south end of Hartford, near where my dad grew up. We had this family dentist. We used to go into the city, and there was this dentist we always went to. Uh, it was kind of an older guy, and then he retired, and then this other dentist came. He and his wife. That was later though. But when I was a kid, it was always the old guy who had been there forever, and everybody knew him. He was Italian, and it was comforting. Like you would always have the same hygienist for years. You'd have the same person. Now, every time you go, every 6 months, they get somebody new. And my ex, he has. I I haven't had any issues with the. They bill my insurance. It's fine. It's more of the appointments and the hygienist I have. I kind of go off on. But with him, it was the billing. He's so he was like, he's an investigator. He would always catch when our dentist here would bill us for stuff, and and he'd notice, no, we're not paying this, we're not paying that, and he'd call them up, and and then they'd say, oh yeah, right, and then they would fix it, and then the next time, and he'd save us hundreds of dollars by being alert, and looking, you know, he's an engineer. He's looking at all the details. Me, I would just pay it. I mean, I would glance at, but that was his thing. That was his. We divided up the things, and the things he was most passionate about, like the medical stuff. He's a Pisces, so he would handle the medical bills, and he did a damn good job at it. I must say, I couldn't have married anybody. It was more, any more of um, you know, I would say it was dogged the way, like a pit bull, the way he would go at those insurance bills. He had a passion, and this is Gen X. We're both Gen Xers. I was passionate about other things. I would teach CCD, and I get all heated up when things started changing in the church, and you know I didn't. I wanted to do what was best for the kids, and then there were all these changes and the merging of the parishes, and this person is coming in, and these people are sick. It was crazy. But I'd come home and I'd be ranting about that, and he'd be ranting about the damn dentist, and you know. Anyway, but this is Gen X, folks. I I get my no, I don't have my Christmas socks on today. Oh man. So so anyway, there's that. He's getting all the Christmas stuff down from the attic at the house, and the kid is helping him, and they got anybody need a very good quality uh, bunk bed, solid wood with very nice set. We have one with rails and stuff that our boys used to sleep in. So if you know of anybody, let me know in the comments. Yeah, because we're gonna sell. He's gonna sell it, and cleaning out the attic. Cleaning out things. Things are shaping up. Things are looking good. And he texts me. Says, "Oh yeah, thinking about you putting up the tree," and he would always, my thing. He used to call it. We had this. It was like a Swedish type of garland with little wooden, like little green wooden beads, alternating with red Christmas trees. And it was nice. I got it at a Christmas tree shop, before they closed. So um, every year that would be my job. Was string. He'd put the lights on, get the tree up, and then I'd go with he'd bring in the box of garland. We had two or three, wooden strands of the stuff, and I used to try put it. And every year I'd be swearing. I said, "Yeah, that's what you miss," because we had this routine, and it was way over my head. And he would stand there and watch me struggle and try to stand up on a bench or a stool or something. Mostly, I just tossed the damn thing up there, and you know, he could have helped me, but he preferred to watch me, listen to me swear, and try to get the damn thing around the top of the tree. Now, once I got around once, then I was okay, you know. But every year, that was my job. And I'd get a little bench or something. I'd be like thrown. It still was too high for me to reach, But anyway, that was my job. We called it the Judy because it was Judy Garland. Anyway, you've been married, 28 years. These are the things you remember, folks. These are the little corny jokes that you told each other, and your little stories about, things that didn't go right, that all the little petty things that you went through together. It's not the big things. It's not we didn't have big things. We worked together, and we each had that one thing that pissed us off. I remember the things that ticked him off, and he remembered the things that pissed me off. And I was the one who was more vocal about it. He'd be good. He'd go to church. He wouldn't swear, like that. In my house, my mom's family, we swear. I He was very good, especially around the boys. He wouldn't swear. But it was therapeutic for me. I let it fly, not so much around the kids, but maybe that when they were a little older. Definitely with him, and he made me feel like I was uh, like I needed my mouth washed out with soap. Because I had dated some guys who weren't, they didn't care so much, but you know, he made me feel like I needed to go to confession. That's a Pisces for you. Pisces are good at the guilt, you know. Anyway, but I figured, okay, well, so I would swear sometimes, but then my actions were good, and I'd go and we'd decorate the tree, and as the boys, grew up, we'd leave them each their ornaments to put up, as they got to teenagers, coming home from college or high school, we'd set aside their little ornaments that they could put up on the tree, even when they were, 18, 19, going to college. They'd say, "Oh, you saved my," and they'd put up a few. Our youngest son, he was more into he'd throw up some decorations, and things would end up in different places every year, but it was fun, you know, and they'd have fun with it. See where things end up this year, because things never ended up in the same place twice on the tree, you know. They And then you'd have those ornaments that were really in bad shape. You put those in the back of the tree, you know, and the flashy ones, the new ones you put in the front. But you had to put the old ones up because, you know, it's only right. And every year you would get new ornaments, and then the ones that the kids made, the ones we had as kids, some of those were on there still. And then the ones the kids had, the ones they made at the holiday craft fair, the little puzzle piece things and the little googly eyed, Christmas ornaments. We put those up there, and then people, what it ended up being was a beautiful blend. Um, and it wasn't Ralph Lauren perfect. It wasn't Instagrammable. You know, every year a different theme like they have now, right? Tick tock, tick tick tick. Tick. No, the beauty of the holidays is building upon your family's traditions. I did it with my parents. They kept all the, my ugly ornaments, the quirky ones I made as a kid. And, we'd have some, every year a couple of balls would fall and break, sweep them up, and then maybe you get a couple new ones every year, and so when I grew up, I would go to the mall and, get those little ornaments that had the year on it. And, we put all our names on there so we could look and see our family's history, right? It wasn't pretty, always perfect. Perfect is not the point. Real is the point. You, right? I, you're gonna. I, how do you distinguish your Christmas from anybody else's out there? You got to make it yours. What's the point of having a family if you have a cookie cutter Christmas that's like anybody else's? It's okay. Okay, Zazoo, that's enough. All right. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's just funny. I got my first Christmas card of the year from my high school friend. She lives down in Virginia now, but we met up at the 20th reunion, and we had both just had a baby. She had her daughter, and I had my son, their youngest son. And so we sat together like, wow, that's cool. We both just had a baby this year. And I get the card, and there's a picture of her. She has an older daughter who's about the same age as our oldest son. The four of them, her husband, and the two girls, and the 22-year-old who graduated in May, and my son. And I have an identical picture of me, the boys, their dad, with my kid who just graduated, and her daughter was chemistry, and my son is forestry. So, and she's my friend. She's a doctor. She became a doctor, like I think a family doctor or something like that. So it's funny as their daughter's following in her footsteps or something. She was always good science, math person. So I thought I'd throw that out there. It was just warm my heart to see she still keeps in touch, and how our lives. I was thinking about my high school classmates, and how successful they all are, and they all humble me because I've done a lot of things, but it seems like they have stuck to one thing, and I've kind of been all over the place. But it's I never set out to just do one thing because I've always been interested in a lot of things. So, I've been true to that. And I've been true to my writing. I've always been a writer. The very fact that I did pursue a business career, and I still am kind of a business person, but I'm a lot of things, and I've always been kind of all over the place. So, whatever. But all my friends are really smart in high school. I was with the sort of preppy, smart kids. A lot of us went to the same colleges, and you know. But yeah, I'm humbled thinking, how lofty position. I'm still waiting to I think hit my peak. My potential is yet to be reached, but it's coming. It's coming. Okay, Isaiah. So I noticed a couple since last week. One thing we did that all my classmates and I have in common though. We went to a Catholic high school, so I think all of us, the religion did play a part. It was our foundation. We were all kind of wanting to serve, at a high level, from a spiritual place, not just to have a career, just out in the world just to make money. But we all of us went into kind of serving, medical, whether it was law or medicine or business. We all, I think, wanted to make the world a better place. And that was, the people closest to me. That's what we all kind of had in common. To serve God, and that was what was kind of drummed into us, in our school, in Catholic school. So yeah, ever to excel was our motto. Yeah. So yeah, I noticed that Isaiah and the Romans were both last week, so we're kind of continuing here. Um, yeah. So Isaiah, of course, the prophet, and yeah, so he was talking about, um, and I know I always wondered about this. See, we didn't have Wikipedia and stuff to look up these things. So it's the whole stump of Jesse shoot rising from the stump of Jesse reading, and I didn't know this, but I guess Jesse was David's father, and he was from Bethlehem. So that makes a lot of sense. Um, so it was a part of the family um, that was cut off and thought that, from the royal line. So it was thought that, that line of the family was dead, declining, hopeless. Nothing was going to come from there. So the fact that Jesus was descended from David through Joseph, his stepfather, was significant because this the readings this week are giving hope in a time of hopelessness, in a time where things seem, that time of year, everything's dead, right? Winter is coming. um, so it was significant that, they Isaiah predicted that, from a shoot, a little, green growth would come from a place that was seemed to be, you know, bearing no fruit, right? And that he predicted Jesus as the Messiah would, um, you know, it would be miraculous. He would be filled with wisdom and counsel, knowledge and reverence for God, right? So this is, that he would judge by appearances, not by appearances, but by righteousness. This is a Sagittarius theme. He would stand as a sign for all nations, right? The Gentiles to seek out, so that he would be, um, you know, visible, right? To raise him up so that he would be visible, not hidden in a corner somewhere, right? So this is significant. And then how, the end of the reading talks about the baby playing in the cobra's den. And when this happens, right, the lion and the ox will eat hay together, whatever. The baby will be playing, and the child laid his hands on the adder. Snake images, and it says year of the snake. So that's kind of interesting. But it has these, wolf and the lamb. There's astrological images here too, with all the animals, the lion, Leo. I didn't go into all of that stuff. Um, but I think Neptune's going direct this week on Wednesday in Pisces. And Saturn is in Pisces also. So it's the very tail end. There's images here about the water covering the sea, the earth, like the earth filled with knowledge of the Lord, like the waters cover the sea. So that's interesting. So yeah, definite Pisces imagery going on here. Um, just doing a broad brush this week. And then the Psalm says, justice shall flourish in his time, and fullness of peace forever. Judgment is a tarot card too, and that's Sagittarius imagery, definitely. Um, so it talks about the king's son, the king judgment, and king will be endowed with judgment and justice. The king's son will rule with justice, rescue the poor when they cry out, and the afflicted, and all that. So yeah, so there's that image of, peace, and peace on the earth, harmony, and having pity on the poor, right? So yeah, Paul to the Romans, he's encouraging. Uh, he's saying, read the scriptures. There's messages of endurance. Stick with it, and be encouraged. Have hope. right? Um, and he encourages people to be in harmony, to think in harmony with each other, right? In, in Jesus, in his words, so that they can glorify God together in one voice. And there's this message that all will be saved. In other words, it doesn't say you go over here and you go over there and you each sing separately. No, it says you sing together. Glorify. If we're more than one are gathered in name Jesus' name, it's more powerful, right? So there's this image of joining voices. So that plays into the song I picked for today. And then Luke said, Luke was last, prepare the way of the Lord and make straight his path. This week is Matthew, and there's this image of, John the Baptist crying in the desert with his camel hair and his leather belt and he's eating his locusts and honey and stuff. But, crying, repent for the kingdom of heaven is at hand, and this whole this whole end of the world thing happening. So he's baptizing people. People are coming to the Jordan River to be baptized by him with water. But he's saying, he John was very popular. He was, he had a lot of followers, but he knew that he was going to have to step down. He's not worthy to undo the sandals of Jesus who was coming. And he knew someday. He said, he's one is coming who will baptize with, fire, Holy Spirit and fire, right? Who's going to clear the threshing floor and burn the chaff, or burn the chaff and gets the wheat into the barn. And, he's going to separate. There's going to be a separating people who are, and this is continued from last week. You come and which way are you going, right? So, and then there's this tree imagery again, where they say the Pharisees came to be baptized, and he said, "You brood of vipers, you hypocrites, right? They show." He said, "Show repentance through how you live your life. Don't just talk like for appearances. They wanted to be seen repenting, but and then they go back and they do all their, they do things. They live their lives in a way that was not, in agreement with the words they were saying, right? They were seen to be, pounding their chests and saying, "Oh yeah, we're practicing what we preach," but they really weren't. So that's what he's saying is, the trees, the axe is at the root of the tree, right? Um, and so Jesus was at the top of the tree, and um, at the axe is at the root of the tree. That's that, the, where it started, right? Jesus's ancestors. So if the tree produces good fruit, then it'll be allowed to go, and if it's not, chop it down. So there's that image, tree imagery there, of producing good fruit, bearing fruit through your actions, through how you live your life. So, and this is still true. So, song I picked, I thought, okay, who's the John? John Mellencamp. He used to be John Cougar Mellencamp. Now he's just John. Peaceful World, which was released in, I might have done this song before, but it's perfect for today. August of 2001, from his Cuttin' Heads album. Now, it was written and recorded by John Mellencamp and India Ari, India Ari, India dot Ari, India Ari. And so it hit the Billboard, let's see, the Billboard Top 40, it was number 11. And the Billboard, it was various places on various Billboard lists, but that was the Billboard Top 40. I guess it was featured, it was released the month before September 11th, 2001. So that in itself was appropriate. It was a song of comfort at a time when people needed that. They needed uh, a song of comfort, and it was a time of harmony in the U.S. in a way. You know, people came together in a especially around New York City in that time, um, and so the whole one voice thing. They both sing equally on this. you know, so watch the video. He picked her because he said she had a beautiful voice and she's all about the music, um, versus I guess some other people in the music industry. He felt that she was her heart was in it. She had a beautiful voice and she was all about the music versus the appearances and all that. Which in the music industry, some people can get caught up in just lip syncing or just caring more about how they look or seem than and especially today, everything is all electronic. It's one song sounds like the next, but but she had soul. She sang with soul, with spirit, right? So that's why he picked her. um, so that's and he even talks about not a preacher's son or something. There's references to Martin Luther King Jr. and that's part of the imagery. Um, yeah, it fits with this opposites living in peace theme in the scriptures, in scripture reading, right? Um, and if you can read about it, he's talking. It was sort of a response to how rap music was going in the early 2000s. Um, so, and he's saying, calling out the devil being uh, people selling out in the music industry, right? So it's what you do and not what you say. So there's that same vibe to the song. Whereas, are you authentic? Is your inspiration coming from above, from spirit, or is it coming from, are you just acting, just selling out for the money, just singing what people want to hear, just to make a buck, right? Or are you singing from your heart in what God wants to say through you as an artist, right? So that's um, so there was this feeling of, the the sort of message was, this is how the world is now, but we have hope for a better future. So that's a song, and still today we can listen to music to remind us, yeah, things aren't perfect, but things are we have hope that things will get better. And that's what the holiday season is about, is not losing the true meaning of the holiday and all the hustle bustle and glitz and glitter. That's not what it's about. The holiday season, the coming of the Christ light is about getting your the vessel that is our physical body and our earthly existence, making room for Christ light to come through us and through us into the world, right? That's what it's about. So don't forget that. And all the, it's just, sometimes it can really get to be too much. Turn that stuff off. Doesn't your tree doesn't have to be perfect to have a good Christmas. Your heart has to be in the right place, though. So how are you doing with that? I know myself. I'm constantly catching myself veering off one way or the other. Come back. Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna go have my paleo hot chocolate now. I'm gonna go out and take a walk or something. Bundle up. So until next week, have a great week. And you know, Don't be a Scrooge. Grinch. Remember what happened to Scrooge? He was visited by the ghosts. Remember all those things. Not just the commercial Christmas. Remember the true meaning, the things that spark, feelings, the true feelings of Christmas, the true love. Let that motivate your holiday decorating and gift giving, right? Let love be at the motivation for it, not somebody else doing. What somebody tells you to buy or anything like that. Okay, I'll see you. I'll be here, same place for the moment, different time next week. Okay, take care, everybody. Bye bye.